Can you walk us through what we know so far in terms of the search efforts this morning?
Absolutely. So since this all unfolded at 1:27 this morning, Marcia, the search efforts have grown and have increased, and multiple teams on scene now. In fact, Maryland's governor declaring a state of emergency, asking for federal resources to join them at the scene as well. So very much an active search operation. Last we knew, the Baltimore Fire Department was indicating that they were looking for upwards of 7 people. Sonar, as you said, had indicated multiple vehicles in the water. Of course, they're contending with all of that metal from the collapsed portion of the bridge as well as they search. And you can see right here just the mess that has created, and the absolute complication that would create for rescue crews who are desperately trying to find survivors of this bridge collapse. I can tell you also that we've learned, Marcia, that this ship called the Dali, which was leaving Baltimore and heading to Sri Lanka, all 22 crew members, including 2 pilots on board, have been accounted for. That's according to the manager of the ship, called Synergy Marine Group, out of Singapore. And a different company out of Singapore, called Grace Ocean Private Limited, is the owner of the ship. So we're dealing with 2 entities in Singapore responsible for owning and managing this ship. They haven't commented yet on exactly what may have happened. There were reports that the ship's lights went off before it hit that pylon and the bridge collapsed. All of these clues investigators looking at right now, as well as what caused the ship to become so far off course that it hit the support pylon, rather than taking the channel that it should have taken under that bridge, according to Maryland's transportation secretary. So a lot of questions surrounding this right now. But again, Marcia, the main focus we keep hearing from first responders right now is that they are trying to find the people who were in those vehicles, perhaps as well some of the workers on the bridge, because it's not clear if the 2 people who've been rescued thus far, including one in serious condition, by the way, were workers on the bridge or were people in the vehicles. But just haunting accounts from eyewitnesses, including that night shift worker you had on just a couple of moments ago, Marcia, as people watched this happen in seconds, watched this 2.5-kilometer long bridge buckle and a huge section of it fall into that river, the Patapsco River, within seconds. A major artery, this bridge, it actually carries an U.S. interstate, I-695. Up to 31,000 vehicles typically cross this each day. It would have been much quieter overnight, but a tragic story nonetheless, and authorities noting that it could have been an even wider tragedy had this happened during daylight. But that's neither here nor there, because right now the focus, Marcia, is on finding people who may have survived this. But again, chilly waters, 8 degrees Celsius right now as those rescue crews do their work.
Yeah, and I think one question on the minds of many people right now is the crew, because we still see that cargo ship there in the water. We don't know at this point. Perhaps we will learn in just a few moments when the news conference gets underway about the whereabouts and the well-being of that crew on that cargo ship. And one of the first questions also that comes to mind, Tony, in a situation like this, any tragedy, is whether there was something nefarious involved here. That, as I understand it, has been ruled out.
It has been ruled out. Officials early this morning, so at least a few hours after this happened, but relatively early in the morning still, Marcia, were quick to point out that they do not believe that this had anything to do with terrorism. And the White House sort of went a step further and qualified that, and they said there's no indication of anything nefarious being involved here. But a lot of eyes on this, not only because of the dramatic nature in which this happened, but because this is a major shipping route, Marcia. The Port of Baltimore, it's not the busiest port along the U.S. East Coast, but it is the one that's physically closest to the U.S. Midwest. So they're dealing with a lot of shipping traffic every day. Obviously, that's all shut down right now because of this incident and because of the response and because of the search for survivors. The immediate focus is what's being called a very highly complex recovery and investigation that's going to get underway. Now, this port that the ship was leaving is the 9th biggest port in the U.S., handles around $80 billion in goods each year. We don't know exactly what was on this ship, but again, we do know that it was leaving the port of Baltimore and it was on its way to Colombo, Sri Lanka, when this tragedy unfolded at around 1:30 this morning. Again, that ship hitting one of the pylon support structures along the bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge over the Patapsco River in Baltimore, Maryland, and the bridge buckling and collapsing in seconds. I mean, you saw the footage. It was just remarkable, I think, to look at that footage for any of us who saw it first thing this morning and see a major transportation bridge in the United States just crumbling into the water in a matter of seconds. So disturbing and remarkable all at once, Marcia, as investigators reach out not only to the owners and managers of this ship, but the many eyewitnesses as well who probably were all along various areas of the shoreline watching this unfold. And of course, hoping that the many people who were in those vehicles that were crossing the bridge at the time, hoping that there are survivors to report at the end of the day here.